I was exactly like you. I did all kinds of inner work. I was already a certified life coach, and I realized that no matter what I did and what I knew, certain patterns continued repeating, especially in my intimate relationships. This led me to ask different questions and eventually served as the foundation for identity work, the process that I created and wrote about here in my book, about how our I am shapes the reality we live in. Our I am being the part in us, a kind of a conditioned part of our consciousness that was likely formed in relationship to an energy similar to what you keep attracting. So before I go on any further, I want to ask you, does the feeling that you get when the pattern goes sideways, when you become too much in that relationship, does that feeling, if you were to isolate it, not connected to a particular set of events, right, but just took the feeling itself, embarrassment, shame, feeling like you are too much or too little, feeling of inadequacy, that feeling connect to something you felt a long, long time ago? And when was the first time you have ever felt that feeling? That moment when that, not only that feeling occurred, but because of the feeling of the situation that happened between you and the person that was supposed to love you unconditionally, you decided something about yourself that made you say, not consciously, but subconsciously, in order for me to get love from somebody who's supposed to love me, I have to overcome this hurdle. I have to prove this thing. I have to ensure or control this other thing. Our reality is this moldable and obedient matrix that is going to continue serving us brick by brick all of the ingredients that we need to recreate that old trauma, that old house where we, or our conditioned sense of self, not only feels at home, but believes that by overcoming that, by playing by the rules of that house, we will finally find wholeness. But there's, of course, one problem with it is that identity does not want to give itself up. It does not want to dissolve, because that's the only way it's ever going to heal, not by repairing the world out there, but by giving itself up. I am broken. I don't exist. I am not lovable. I don't know my value. All of these ideas are just thoughts. They don't need to get repaired. They just need to dissolve. But until then, they will continue drawing in, or that consciousness wrapped in the costume of those thoughts will continue drawing in same experience. You could push this guy away, apply for a dating app, and pick one person that's going to repeat the traits of your old love or fit into your pattern. Practically speaking, how do you find that puzzle piece that you bring to the table that plugs into the pattern perfectly, so the pattern dissolves? And when you meet the person that used to fit the pattern, you'll be just like, that's another person. Do I want to have a relationship with them or do I not? Instead of saying, that's the only person that love can come through. I want to look at places in your relationships, past and present, where you say yes to what you don't want to say yes to. And when you want to say no to something, you actually go with it because of an anxious and unstable feeling that occurs in you just before you agree to act outside of your integrity, just before you agree to go against your intuition, even when your mind says everything checks out, but your gut says, hey, wait, slow down. Identity work can go very, very deep, and it can go on layer by layer by layer, but it could start very simply. It started for me. My very, very first inquiry was me sitting at a kitchen table thinking about my marriage. It wasn't working at that time, and thinking about a string of relationships prior to that. And I asked myself if I was looking at the story of Anya's relationships, especially where she agrees to things that she doesn't want to agree to, especially where her intuition said, this is not a good idea, but we have to do this. What would the story be about? What would Anya be assuming about herself to make her agree to these things that she obviously isn't in alignment with? And suddenly it popped into my consciousness that I had no solid sense of value in the world. That I felt the only way for me to be real in the world, especially in terms of money, was through helping a man succeed. I could not be out there, but I could help a man. But how could I help a man? Oh, I needed to find a man that wants something from me. So we would establish this kind of like give and take. Imagine that you don't do that. Say, this person is suggesting that we do something faster than I'm ready. Instead of agreeing to it, I imagine saying no. Now, when I imagine saying no, what do I feel like? What kind of feelings come up in me? Oh, I feel scared. So what's going to happen if I continue feeling scared? Well, if I continue feeling scared, I will end up alone. And what would happen if I end up alone? Well, if I end up alone, I will never be fulfilled. And if I'm not fulfilled, what would happen to me? If I'm not fulfilled, I'm not going to ever know true love. And if I don't know true love, what is going to happen to me? I will not be able to fulfill my purpose. And what would happen to me if I don't fulfill my purpose? If I don't fulfill my purpose, I don't exist. And suddenly you're like, whoa, this little thing that's happening in my relationship is tied to my fear of not existing. You start looking at this conditioning with all of its tentacles as something that penetrated, every area of your life. But once you pull that root, everything is going to change. So I don't know if anything that I've said made sense, but check out my book if you can. If not, do the free guided inquiry that I have. You can find it. I cannot tell you where to go right now, but you could look at my profile here on TikTok. Good luck, and just know that things will change. As long as we don't resist the idea that we're the center of our reality and that there's something that we still want from that pattern, something we assume we're missing. The assumption that's simply a thought that does not need to be healed, but just needs to be released.